But before we do that, and before we get to our panel, we need to thank someone special who has, for the past 9 years, been ICCR's leader as executive director. So I'd like to invite Laura Berry up to the stage so we can all properly pay homage to her.
I thought I could sit in the dark.
Not in the dark, please. Hardly. After nearly a decade of service, Laura Berry is retiring as executive director of ICCR. And it is an understatement to say that her vision and commitment to our organization and its members will be genuinely missed. Laura came to ICCR in 2007 with a varied but extremely relevant resume, including a prior career on Wall Street as a large-cap value portfolio manager, giving her a unique perspective on that industry during the ensuing meltdown, as well as a position in the philanthropic world as a senior leader at a community foundation in her home state of Connecticut. But clearly, her early career as a chemical engineer, perfecting the manufacture of beer cans, has proven most valuable to our organization. For while ICCR members have a reputation for utmost temperance in all matters, we have been known to hoist a few when the mood strikes us, and to offer our evaluative comments and metrics on a number of different global brews. While the nonprofit community was seriously challenged during the recent economic downturn, under Laura's careful stewardship and leadership, ICCR managed not just to retain, but to double ICCR's revenue base, as well as significantly expand our global influence to the benefit of our growing membership. During her time with us, Laura made it a central focus to intentionally expand and diversify our membership. Instinctively understanding that the diversity of our 300+ institutions, the rich mosaic that is ICCR, and the depth of our collective commitment are the most valuable asset and our greatest strength. Laura has opened new horizons for the ICCR community and stretched some old muscles and allowed us to discover new sources of grace and direction in our mission. She led the organization through 2 strategic planning and issue prioritization cycles and implemented numerous systems and protocols to help guide and enhance our work. A passionate and seemingly inexhaustible promoter of our members' campaigns in shareholder advocacy, Laura was a gifted ambassador for ICCR as she traveled the world to share our story and recruit new allies. And just a year ago, Pope Francis was among them, I believe. Of course, Laura's nationalistic fervor was always on display. Bet you're wondering what he's going to talk about now. Something, of course, which I greatly admire, but for which her staff at times gave her grief. For in the heart of Harlem, New York, just a scant few miles and subway stops from Yankee Stadium, I suppose some of you know where that is, Laura wore her colors as a member of the Red Sox Nation proudly. I suppose it's just mere coincidence that we've won 3 out of 4 already in the stadium the last few nights. I just couldn't resist, sorry. Were it not for the fact that she generously donated many tickets to Yankees home games to her staff, this might have incited a mutiny in the ranks. Laura, for your extreme courage in the face of the Yankees, the staff would like for you to have an official ball from the 2013 World Series, an extremely valuable gift that will, given that the Red Sox will never again win a World Series.
Thank you.
And however, you and I both know that that's not in any way
Even remotely true.
Remotely true.
This year aside.
This year aside. and for your vision and leadership as a reminder of the rich mosaic of our coalition, a kaleidoscope. So this is absolutely going to allow you to look in there and see when the Red Sox are next going to win the World Series.
Oh.
And
You all look so much better now.
staff and members are grateful to you, Laura, for your voice, your energy, and your vision, and for the many different gifts that you have shared with us. And we look forward to hearing about the next stop on your journey as we continue this gathering this afternoon. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is Helen here?
Thank you.
I'll take these. And before we give you the microphone, Helen Welsmid is going to offer recognition from the Church of England investors, I believe.
Yes, so I'm here today to recognise Laura's outreach to church investors globally, and in particular to the Church Investors Group in Europe. And you've been a fantastic friend to us, and I personally have seen that through the lens of all the advocacy work we've done at this side of the Atlantic and at our side of the Atlantic with the oil and gas companies. And it's been wonderful to travel with you and ICCR through that experience.
Great. It's all yours.
Oh. Well, thank you so much, Seamus and everyone. I'm going to ask if it might be possible, just for a moment, to turn on the house lights so I can see the folks in the audience, so I can just say hello. Is it possible to turn up the lights in the audience? Perhaps not. Perhaps not. Well, I hear you laughing, so I know that that means you are out there. Here we go. Oh, let there be light. It's such a good thing. Because I intend to say thank you especially to my husband, I just want to make sure he's in the room to hear this. Hello, dear. Welcome. All right, now to more serious matters. I made a commitment to myself, Seamus, that I would not mention baseball or the Red Sox. And I am so grateful that I was supported in that somebody sort of pinch hit for me. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. In spite of the weather hurtling its way toward us, today ICCR is actually welcoming the largest crowd to have ever gathered for an ICCR event. So let's applaud ourselves. I promise my remarks will be brief. But thank you all so much for coming to celebrate yet another decade of ICCR's leadership and accomplishments. I will add a special thank you, here it comes, honey, a special thank you to my husband, Bernard, and the friends and former colleagues who've made a special effort to be here this afternoon. Thank you. A very big welcome to everyone, especially our moderator and panelists who so graciously accepted our invitation to share their thoughts on leadership with us today. I see, and now I actually do see because the lights are on, I see so many dear friends, treasured collaborators, and irreplaceable supporters out there in the audience. And I wish I had enough time to thank each and every one of you by name. I fear a more global thank you will have to suffice. I hope you know how much I've appreciated all that every one of you has contributed to ICCR over the years. Since its founding 44 years ago, and in every decade since, the ICCR community has worked tirelessly on a vision of a sustainable world built on justice. And even though my adventure at ICCR as executive director is coming to an end, I know that when you gather in 2021 for ICCR's half-century mark, there will be a new list of accomplishments to celebrate. You may ask why I have such confidence in this organization's future, or even how I know ICCR can count on your continuing commitment to this work. 3 reasons came to mind as I prepared to welcome you all today. First, the ICCR community understands the risks and opportunities presented by bridges and tightropes. Second, eclipses don't scare us. And finally, like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, we know a lot about angels. How many of you, and again, now that the lights are on, I can actually see you, how many of you attended our events back when they were at South Street Seaport, that is, before Hurricane Sandy destroyed the place? So there's a lot of new folks in the audience. Well, the view from Bridgewaters always brought to mind 2 New York stories that took place very close to that lovely venue. One in the 19th century and the other in the 20th. When we gathered there for the first time in 2008, we were struck by the amazing resonance of the place to our mission. Here at ICCR, we fancy ourselves to be bridge builders in our work in corporate engagement. Those of you who were with us then may recall the story of the Brooklyn Bridge, which opened in 1853. It was not only beautiful, but it was the engineering marvel of its day. All kinds of traffic surged onto the bridge as soon as it opened. The traffic, even by New York standards, was overwhelming. In the rush to take advantage of the bridge's promise, using impressive new technology, too many people showed up at one time, and too few police officers were available to control the crowds. Tragically, a deadly stampede occurred. 12 people were crushed to death, and scores were injured. In the wake of this tragedy, the papers exclaimed that this engineering marvel had turned into a death trap. And of course, very expensive lawsuits were filed against the bridge's trustees. In 2008, we also shared an experience of a financial stampede and the near collapse of our global capital markets. There were too few police officers, and many of us lost faith in the individuals charged with protecting the marketplace. I share this story not just to share a bit of New York history, nor to express skepticism about engineering marvels. As Seamus shared with you, I'm an expert as a chemical engineer in beer can manufacturing. I share this story to remind us all of its resonance with contemporary challenges in the work of corporate responsibility. Today's engineering marvels may not be as easy to see as the Brooklyn Bridge, but they can be just as risky without the sort of vigilance engaged investors provide. Whether the engineered marvel of securitized debt that nearly collapsed our global capital markets in 2008, or more recent revelations that the world's largest automobile company used proprietary software to hoodwink regulators and 11 million car buyers, let's be clear, the work ICCR does matters. In viewing investments through the lens of faith, ICCR members have had a long history of raising issues that our companies may not yet see. In the wake of this very same crisis in 2008, the Christian Science Monitor referred to ICCR as, quote, an early warning system, unquote. Through ongoing corporate dialogues, ICCR members identify risks and build bridges to stakeholders in innumerable ways. Our marketplace cannot work, and companies will not prosper if trust and integrity are lost. Quoting Monty Python, corporate responsibility is, pardon me, Helen, not dead yet. The work ICCR does matters. Has anybody in the room seen the new film, The Walk? Nobody has. It tells a story that I've often cited in describing ICCR's work. In what Time magazine called the artistic crime of the century, on August 7th in 1974 at 7:15 in the morning, 25-year-old Philippe Petit began his high-wire act. He stepped off the South Tower of the World Trade Center and began to cross a twisted cable of 3/4-inch wire to the North Tower. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth he went. He made 8 crossings supported only by the tension of the wire and his belief that he could bridge the divide. The walk is clearly a story of a man who found joy in his high wire act, a delight in doing what few were trained to do, and even fewer would want to do. What gave him the audacity? What gave him the courage? What allowed him to pull it off? Was it vision, faith, skill, balance, strength? He clearly believed he could do it, and he knew the stakes were high. Falling off was simply not an option. But Philippe was ready. He understood the tension of the wire. He trusted his ability to balance. This trust and understanding allowed him to navigate the void. Sometimes our work is like that, a high wire act held up by trust and understanding that tension keeps us sharp. Tension, particularly properly channeled, creates energy and is actually a good thing. Our work is most successful when we find a way to bridge what divides us in spite of the tension. As I said before, the ICCR community understands both the risks and the opportunities presented by bridges and tightropes. Okay, this is your last chance. Did anybody see the lunar eclipse here on the East Coast Sunday night? All right. With a name like, I love this, Super Blood Moon Eclipse, it was pretty easy to imagine, quite a frightening spectacle. The Klieg light in the sky slowly went dark as the Earth's shadow blocked out. In our backyard, the night sky. It was easy to imagine the light would never return. It was easy to forget the moon actually has no light of its own. What we see here on Earth is merely a reflection of the sun's radiance. Slowly but surely, as the Earth and moon moved through their evening routine, the glowing moon returned. Sometimes ICCR is a little like the moon. Our job is to reflect the work of others, our members, and the corporate leaders who have the courage to work with us. Sometimes shadows fall, but if we keep moving, the light comes back. During these past few weeks, there have been many disturbing stories that have given skeptics an opportunity to pronounce the death of corporate responsibility. At the same time, we've watched millions of people shine with inspiration in the wake of Pope Francis's visit and his very clear message. At ICCR, we know the light will always come back. Eclipses don't scare us. And finally, what about those angels? Now, I'm not talking about baseball teams. We're done with baseball. We appreciate Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who said, "We judge ourselves by what we feel capable of doing, while others judge us by what we have already done." In his poem, Footsteps of Angels, Longfellow reminds us that though we can sometimes be discouraged, there will always be angels who have come before us, taken our hand, and helped us on our path. The ICCR community knows a lot about angels. Together, the ICCR community has done so much these past 4.5 decades. Its reputation and credibility has been built upon what has already been done. But you all know you are capable of even more as you look forward to a very bright future. As in the past, there will be bridges, there will be tightropes, darkness and light, but I believe ICCR will always be guided by the footsteps of angels. Let's welcome our panelists and join them in yet another provocative conversation. Thank you all. Thank you. I'm so excited about the baseball.